insurance company just sent her a letter saying they plan to double her premium this year, have it go up 100%. And she can't afford it. So now she's trying to figure out, am I going to keep my insurance or am I going to keep my daughter in college? Leslie Banks needs us to pass this reform bill. I met Laura up in Green Bay, Wisconsin while I was campaigning. She had beaten her breast cancer. Then she discovered it had spread to her bones. She and her husband, they were lucky enough to have insurance, but their medical bills still landed them in debt. So now she's spending time worrying about the debt, when all she wants to do is think about how she can spend time with her 2 kids. Laura needs us to pass this reform bill. When her insurance company raised her rates, she had to give up her coverage, even though she'd been paying thousands of dollars in premiums for years because she had beaten cancer 11 years earlier. They kept on jacking up her rates. Finally, she thought she was going to lose her home. She was scared that a sudden illness would lead to financial ruin, but she had no choice. Right now, she's lying in a hospital bed, faced with paying for such an illness, after she had to give up her health insurance. She's praying that somehow she can afford to get away. She knows that it is time for reform. So George Mason, when you hear people saying, well, why don't we do this more incrementally? Why don't we do this a little more piecemeal? Why don't we just help the folks that are easiest to help? My answer is, the time for reform is over. We have waited long enough. We had historic votes to put Social Security in place to make sure that our elderly did not live out their golden years in poverty. We had a historic vote in civil rights to make sure that everybody was equal under the law.
I thought I saw Omar.
As messy as this process is, as frustrating as this process is, as ugly as this process can be, when we have faced such decisions in our past, this nation, time and time again, has chosen to extend its promise to more of its people. You know, the naysayers said that Social Security would lead to socialism. But the men and women of Congress stood fast and created that program that lifted millions out of poverty. There were cynics that warned that Medicare would lead to a government takeover of our entire healthcare system.
Socialization.
And that it didn't have much support in the polls, but Democrats and Republicans refused to back down. And they made sure that our seniors had the health care that they need and could have some basic pieces. So previous generations, those who came before us, made the decision that our seniors and our poor, through Medicaid, should not be forced to go without health care just because they couldn't afford it. Today it falls to this generation to decide whether we will make that same promise to hard-working middle-class families and small businesses all across America and to young Americans like yourselves who are just starting out. So here's my bottom line. I know this has been a difficult journey. I know this will be a tough vote. I know that everybody is counting votes right now in Washington. But But I also remember a quote I saw on a plaque in the White House the other day. It's hanging in the same room when I demanded answers from insurance executives and just received a bunch of excuses. And it was a quote from Teddy Roosevelt, the person who first called for health care reform, that Republican, all those years ago, and it said, aggressively fighting for the right is the noblest sport the world affords. I don't know how passing health care will play politically, but I know it's right.
We keep on going. We are going to